Go.
Good evening. My name is Madison Holmes, and I'm representing the Columbia FFA chapter, and I'll be giving my speech on where would we be without pollinators. Busy as a bee. These are the exact words I would use to describe my parents. My dad, the muscle, and my mom, the brains. Now, my mom is the mastermind behind the household, or as I like to call it, the hive. She makes sure the bills are paid, the laundry is done, and our pantry is full of food. You could say she earned the title of Queen Bee. My dad, he's a whole different breed of human. He works a regular 9-to-5 job just to get off work to go to his second job, remodeling houses. My parents sustained my life. Without them, I would not have the wonderful place I call home. Just as my parents spend their days working hard to ensure our family's taken care of, our nation relies on one small but mighty group of busy bees to ensure our environment can thrive. They spend their days going to and from the hive pollinating flowers. Bees do not only sustain themselves and their hive, they sustain the world. We all know how crucial bees are to our planet. They sustain the honey markets and pollinate $10 billion of the crops in the U.S. each year. Without bees, we'd be facing the expensive replacement of pollinators, land erosion, and the medical and science industry would look extremely different. A bee's number one job is to pollinate flowers. They spend their days going plant to plant, transferring pollen, which in turn allows the plant to reproduce sexually. Pollination has often been taken for granted. However, we begin to hear more conversation on how China dealt with a decrease in bee population due to the overuse of certain pesticides. This caused China's crop production to plummet until they resolved it by pollinating their crops manually using workers. They would transfer pollen from male plants and female plants in the hopes of their continued reproduction. Having workers pollinate crops was cheaper than running a beehive, yet if China had preserved their bee population, they would not be faced with these extra expenses. The United States has a chance of preventing the same thing happening to us. Although our bee population is slowly starting to stabilize, we still need to make efforts now to ensure we avoid it. Farmers can do several different things to keep their native pollinators around. One is better management of pesticide use and making sure the conditions you apply the pesticide in are favorable, such as days that are dry and have low wind. The second imperative thing a farmer can do is provide food for the pollinators by planting native flowers. Whenever mom yells that dinner's ready, I'm there, especially on fried chicken night. Bees are always looking for food as well, and native plants happen to be their favorite. There are about 250,000 different types of plants that require pollination to reproduce. Native plants mean a majority of those 250,000. Native plants are the solution to erosion. Their roots reach deep into the ground that lock the soil in place. Iowa State University is currently conducting a study on prairie strips and how they reduce erosion and promote pollinator health. Prairie strips are a row of native plants in the middle of a field that prevent the loss of soil. Corn and soybean crops will provide food for bees for a short time, but having the native plants there provide a permanent home and food source for bees. In theory, prairie strips would decrease the erosion in the field, as well as encourage bees to pollinate and care for farmers' crops. Bees pollinate by picking up pollen grains from the anther of a male plant while collecting nectar. When they move on to the next plant, the stigma of a female plant collects the pollen grains and reproduction occurs. The idea of pollination is unique science, but bees have inspired much more in medicine and science other than pollination and honey. Every year when the annual cold comes around, my family breaks out the warm tea and honey. Bees have influenced the medical industry in more ways than one. Honey for medicinal use is a huge market as it is organic and has been shown to create immunity to allergens. Other than honey, bees produce products such as wax, propolis, and royal jelly, all of which have shown to create numerous health benefits. An example of this is royal jelly, a food source for bees which is commonly sold as a nutritional supplement due to its abundance in amino acid, antioxidants, and vitamins. Other than medicine, the world of science has been highly affected by bees. Applied science is a discipline that uses existing knowledge and applies it to solve problems, which usually ends in the invention of technology. Bees are a huge contributor to this. Scientists studied the behavior of bees, which resulted in swarm technology, a system that reflects how work is delegated in a beehive. They have also influenced social pathways, such as the idea of specialized jobs and the behavior that results in the division of labor. These natural pollinators have always fascinated scientists and have been the subject of many studies. This resulted in scientists discovering that bees understand the term zero, putting them in an elite club of highly intelligent creatures right along with dolphins. This discovery encouraged more research in what their tiny minds can fully process. Our native pollinator friends truly are remarkable. It is known to information that bees are in danger, even if the population trend has started to equalize. They face dangers such as American foulbrood and aggressive bacteria killing hives all across the country, environmental destruction, and colony collapse disorder. The United States has hundreds of organizations with the goal of protecting and increasing the bee population, such as the World Bee Project, the Bee Conservancy, and the Bee Girl organization. But the question remains, what can we do? The number one thing any organization will tell you is we can all plant native flowers, giving bees a diverse food source. Having a wide variety of plants can improve bee health. I did this by receiving native seeds in a campaign through Honey Nut Cheerios and planting them along my driveway. Other things that can promote pollinator health is reduce chemical and pesticide use, build bee homes that are easy to make or purchase, and support local bee product companies as they strive to maintain their hives' health. I am who I am because of my parents. And as a world, we are who we are because of bees. Without bees, we face harsh consequences, and in truth, unnecessary ones. Bees contribute a lot to our world. Without them, our industry would encounter a new set of expenses to encompass, such as pollinators. Native plants would slowly but surely quit reproducing and die off, thus our land would erode away quicker than ever. In the world of science and medicine, many products would be non-existent. When I mentioned earlier that my parents sustained my life, they do not go without help. Whether it's my grandma picking me up from school or my sister helping with my math homework, they require assistance. We must assist the bees and lend a helping hand. They are occupied enough running the world. Some would say they are as busy as a bee. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. All right, I have 3 questions for you really quickly. Which agricultural products are influenced by pollination?
Any cropland is affected by pollination. Landscaping and garden centers are affected by pollination. They quite literally would not have business if it wasn't for the bees pollinating their flowers. It would continue to help them reproduce. And like I said, any farmer who has cropland, who grows corn, soybeans, cotton, anything like that, they rely on pollinators to have their business thrive.
All right. What do you think are the greatest threats to pollinators?
I would say right now, through my research, I've found 2 distinct answers. One is colony collapse disorder, and the other is the mite that can kill a hive. So when researching, colony collapse disorder came up quite a bit because it's a very general term, and it results in stress on a hive, whether that's a lack of food source, the destruction of a hive, bees, worker bees disappearing and not coming back, and the queen unable to sustain the hive anymore. And then mite is another big thing that scientists are trying to figure out how beekeepers can prevent that from destroying their hives.
All right. And last question, what are examples of practices farmers could use to increase pollinator numbers?
So like I mentioned, the prairie strips is a research currently being conducted on how farmers can promote pollinator health, and also their pesticide use. And so through research, there were several suggestions on how a farmer can conveniently include bees in their practice, and that is by not spraying when the crops or the plants are in bloom, and also their sprayer size. If you have larger droplets, then it decreases the amount of drift that can go on to other native plants that might kill a bee. And so it's just those kind of things that they can take into account whenever they're farming.
All right. Well, thank you.